Sex is the life force energy that runs through us all. Can you use sexual energy for your spiritual evolution? Or perhaps for emotional healing? Is it even possible? Clinical sexologist Dr. Martha Tara Lee will explore all these and more on Eros Evolution on Om Times Radio.
Welcome to Eros Evolution, where sexuality and spirituality meets. Today, we're talking about sex as currency, how sex is used for unbalanced power and how we can fix it. This is Dr. Martha Tara Lee of Eros Coaching, that's EROS coaching.com. I'm a clinical sexologist based in Singapore, and I am interested in all things relating to sexuality and spirituality. Today's show, we have Dr. Tangie, and she will be explaining how sex is the most powerful currency used to gain and wield unbalanced power within relationships, culture, politics, and religion. Dr. Tangie dissects the transactional aspect of sex in relationships, whether marital, professional, or faith-based. She helps individuals understand these transactional manifestations in their sexuality and sexual relationships. Most importantly, how to restore that balance by empowering instead of powering through sex is her mission. Let me introduce more about our guest today. Tanginika Cuascud is a clinical sexologist and surrogate partner therapist with private practice in North Texas. She's the founder of Texas Sexual Health and offers treatment for sexual concerns for individuals and couples. She's working on a specialization in neuroscience, and in her practice, she blends behavioral modification with neuroplasticity to help her clients achieve their sexual goals. The problems she treats includes premature ejaculation, erectile dysfunction, delayed ejaculation, problems with orgasm, and sexual desire. She's also a sexual health writer for diverse publications and offers seminars and workshops. She promotes sexual health. She promotes sexual rights, education, and empowerment free of shame, fear, or guilt. You can learn more about her by visiting her website. That's Dr. Tangie, Tangie, thesexdoctor.com. So welcome. Welcome to the show. Hello. I'm not sure what's happening. She is not on the call. So yeah, sometimes things like this happen. I thought she's on the show and she's not. So there might be because of some technical issues. Hi, can you hear me?
Hello.
Yes. So yes, welcome to the show. I just introduced you.
Well, I am very happy that you have invited me and to be talking to people from all over the world through your radio show. So my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on. So we were chatting just before the show, and we were talking about, how similar our backgrounds is and how we can support each other. So I'm very curious because today's topic is really very juicy to me and something that's not really been explored about. What exactly do you mean by sex as currency?
Well, I always tell people that every relationship that we have, especially when it comes to sentimental relationships, people do not realize that relationships are transactional. Relationships are really about what I have to offer, what you are willing to accept from me, and what you're willing to give in return. So basically, we dance this dance of relationships of give and take. However, in a broader scope, we have used sex as our currency, as even bait sometimes throughout history. And we also don't realize what we're doing with it. We use sex as a mechanism to control, as a mechanism to get what we want, as a mechanism of punishment, as a mechanism to forward our agenda or to keep others down. And so there is an imbalance of power that has been brought on to different cultures and societies, probably most around the world, when it comes to sex. And that's what I mean by sex as currency. Sex has been, and it still is, the most powerful form of currency that we have in the world today. It is not the US dollar or the euro or any other currency out there. It's sex.
Beautiful. I love how you're explaining it. It totally makes sense to me. And then I now begin to understand what you mean by it is linked to power or unbalanced power. So could you explain more about this concept of currency and the link with power?
Yes. When we talk about power, we don't realize that in order for somebody to be in power, somebody else has to be under that power. So power always supposes a paradigm of somebody being on top, somebody being down, somebody being led, somebody following, somebody being first, somebody being second. So the same thing happens with sex, whether it's in culture, religion, or in our private relationships in our bedroom. There is somebody who holds the power when it comes to sex, and there is somebody who is the recipient of that power, many times in an unbalanced way. And I am going to introduce this new paradigm, if I will, or if you will, of power being an equation of unbalance, not an equation of balance. When you use sex to control, when you use sex to forward your agenda, your needs, your desires, your own drives, and you're not using that power to empower somebody else in the same degree, there is an imbalance. And again, we see this throughout history, throughout peoples and cultures all over the world. We see it in politics. I live in the United States, and we are probably a prime case study on the imbalance of power and the currency of sex, and how it is used in political campaigns to forward the agendas of some, leaving others behind with unmet needs. And I see it in my practice as a clinical sexologist, how that imbalance of power always leaves a winner and a loser. There's never a balance of power when sex is used as currency to wield power.
Fantastic. So I'm very curious what this new paradigm might be.
The new paradigm, I would like to call it the paradigm of empowering instead of powering. Again, as I said before, when you power, think about a bulldozer that goes through a field and wipes out and cleans up everything on its path. To claim that territory, to make it something that probably wasn't so or wasn't meant to be so, and to plant something new arbitrarily and at the discretion of the one who is driving that bulldozer and who is leading that operation. When we empower, then that means that both parties, and let's call it both, just, I don't mean that everything is a dyad, but let's just call it two, because we're talking as far as relationships go. When you empower rather than power, that means that both parties are winning. That means that both parties are having their needs met. That means that both parties are being heard and can grow and evolve in that sexual relationship. And there has to be no loser in that sexual relationship.
Yeah. I just want to maybe elaborate a little bit or add to this piece by saying what I do understand about the word empower. So empower to me means somebody taking on what is theirs, but maybe perhaps didn't know that they had that. So taking on the power that they always had, it's just that they may not have known that they had this power. So that to me is what the word empower means. So
yes, definitely you can say it that way. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I do like the way you are saying about this paradigm, empowering instead of powering.
Yes, and I think when people feel disempowered, when people feel like they don't have the power, that they don't have access to power, that they don't have a voice, that there's nothing they can do to change their condition, that's when a lot of suffering comes out of that equation. And you will hear me talking about politics, and I don't necessarily want to make this a political agenda either. But let's take politics for instance. We are in a system in which has favored men throughout history. Well, that leaves women disempowered, unempowered. So when women feel empowered, as you said, when women realize I do have a voice in this matter, I count, I am of worth, I can rise to the top and share the stardom of this paradise that is the sexual connection and the sexual beings that we are, then we can start living lives that are more balanced, with less suffering and less discomfort. I would see less people in my practice if we had empowerment through sex instead of powerment through sex.
Love it. I love what you're sharing. Here we are with Dr. Tanginika and Cuascud, and we're talking about sex as currency, how this totally is beginning to make sense because sex is transactional, and we also are beginning to explore the concept of power in sex and relationships. So stay tuned to Eros Evolution.
Connecting you with the best of the conscious minds in the world. Om Times Radio. IOM FM.
The truth is, you can't change the world if you're broke. I know, I tried. Isn't it time you turned your life's calling into a profitable, freedom-based business? I'm Michelle Barr. Join me every Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern for Sacred Success.
Are you ready to shift your energy, consciousness, and limiting beliefs? Join me, Shefali Burns, every Monday at 5 p.m. Eastern on Shifting with Shefali here on Om Times Radio. Shift the blocks, limitations, and negative energies that have kept you from experiencing a life filled with joy, peace, love, abundance, and happiness. Are you ready to shift with Shefali? Are you ready to shine your brilliance?
Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. Om Times Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single Om Times endeavor. Host your show with Om Times Radio Network. Om Times Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. Om Times, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle. Your conscious connection to a more mindful world. Om Times Radio. IOM FM.
Welcome back to Eros Evolution, where sexuality and spirituality meets. Today we're talking about sex as currency, how sex is used for unbalanced power and how we can fix it. Well, with Dr. Tanginika Cuascud, and she's also known as Dr. Tangie. So her website is Dr Tangie, that's Tangie, thesexdoctor.com. So welcome back to the show.
Yes, I am here.
Yes, awesome. So just before break, we were talking about your definition of the new paradigm of empowering versus powered. Empowering versus powering. So could you tell us or elaborate more about how sex is used for power?
Let me talk to you about the things that I find in my practice, just so people can understand this from an individual perspective.
Great.
I see in my practice a lot of men, women, couples that are suffering from sexual or intimate issues. Obviously, you are a clinical sexologist, so you see the same cases or similar cases as I do. One of the common themes that I see when I talk to my clients is that there is one in the bedroom who is in control of when the sexual relationship will be had. Usually is the woman. So usually the woman determines when there's going to be sex. So the woman has a schedule. The man dances around and is hoping that at some point he will get lucky, quote unquote lucky, and he will have the sex that he craves. The woman determines when the sex again will be had. And women withhold the sex as punishment, or sometimes they offer it as bait to get something that they want or to punish the man for something that they have done or that they haven't done. So they dance in this very toxic environment of give and take, when the sex will be had, when intimate contact will be allowed, when both will be able to come together to share a space of joy. And even when women give in and allow the man to come and have the sex, they think that they're doing it as a favor to the man, or they're doing it for him exclusively. And so men are going insane over this dance that they don't understand, that they don't know what the criteria necessarily is for women to give the sex. And women have these notions in their heads of when the sex is feasible and viable. However, they do not necessarily convey that information clearly, honestly, and openly to their partners. So women in this case, believe it or not, are holding the power of sex. They do not win because they are exerting this power at the expense of their own pleasure. And obviously men do not win because they're going insane and they do not know what the rules of the game are. And you have disconnected members of this dyad that can't find themselves and can't enjoy that intimate space because they are in this power dynamic, in this power struggle that does not benefit anybody. However, for women, that is the only power sometimes that they think they have in their relationship. They're not in control of anything else. They're at a disadvantage for whatever reason, but they still control the sex. It's almost like he who holds the fire, in this case, she who holds the sex.
Very interesting, this paradigm you're talking about, even though there are some generalizations or stereotyping, but for the most part, I do agree how this is going because I do see this playing out in a lot of heterosexual relationships. And we're really talking about power and polarity here. I feel not just about heterosexuality in any partner relationship, whether it's a straight relationship or gay relationship. I think some of this is playing out.
And thank you so much for saying that again. I use this dyad just as an example. It doesn't mean that all relationships are man-woman. Let's call it feminine energy, masculine energy, however you want to call it. Obviously, I'm a very open person, and I understand the different sexualities out there. But just to depict this topic, just to convey the message, let's think about these two persons who are at either end of this rope, who are pulling the rope in different directions, and none of them are letting go, but none of them are actually coming closer together. So again, when you have these power dynamics, when you exert this power, and this power is not necessarily a positive kind of power. It's a very negative kind of power. It produces a lot of discomfort, a lot of suffering, a lot of unmet expectations and needs. And so this is the unbalance of power that we see over and over again in a lot of relationships. And we need to definitely take a look at ourselves and start to examine what is our role and how we can move forward to create harmony and to empower rather than power through sex.
How does one go about doing this empowerment now that they're more aware of these dynamics that's playing out? What would you say about that?
The first thing that people need to understand is their personal responsibility in the matter. When you feel like a victim in any relationship, you cannot access the power, even if the power is offered to you. So the first thing that I tell people is you realize that you have power in this relationship, right? And a lot of times people don't realize that. It's almost a novel concept that is so foreign when I say that. They're like, I do? And I said, well, yes, of course, you are voluntarily participating and staying and enacting and being an active participant in this dynamic. So you have the power, you have the power to say yes to this paradigm, and you have the power to change it. And so when people realize that they can change the paradigm, that they don't have to accept it anymore, that they can move forward and construct a new one in which they can live harmoniously with one another, that's when people start reclaiming themselves and the empowerment process starts. It starts with self-awareness, and it starts with the recognition of our own roles into these dynamics. We cannot change if we don't have awareness. So the first thing that we need to do is be aware, be cognizant, start examining and introspecting. Instead of blaming the other person, start looking at yourself and the role that you've played. Once you understand that you are moving this energy, that you are leading this energy, that you are provoking this energy and these dynamics, then you are in a better position to start to change for empowerment. And I guess you would ask, what is this empowerment? Well, empowerment means getting a hold of yourself in this relationship, assuming responsibility, being accountable, and start to change so both can be empowered and both can win. It doesn't have to be a lose-lose. It doesn't have to be a lose-win. It can be a win-win. When you realize it, it can be done.
I love what you're sharing. All these juicy things that you are really beginning to share with us. You talked about sex as power and how this kind of toxic relationship that can happen where one is withholding and punishing and treating sex as a favor, and the other being confused and feeling disconnected. This power struggle, which can begin to shift and turn when we, both parties, whether men or women or men to men or women to women, starts taking personal responsibility for ourselves. And this includes being able to reclaim and empower ourselves. I like what you're sharing. Being aware is the first step to change happening.
It is like any other kind of behavior. When you become aware that a behavior of yours is not conducive to growth, to evolution, to you becoming a better person within this relationship, then, or whatever other behavior you're engaging in, whether it's addiction or any other thing, then you realize, I need to assume an active role in change, and I need to move and steer this ship in a different direction. And you know, again, that you have the power to do that. You're not at the mercy of the other person. You can start doing it when you realize that you are a present energy in that relationship. You are not a victim. You are not a byproduct. You are not a passive bystander. You have the power to change, and that's when empowerment begins.
Beautiful, beautiful. I even just hearing you say these words is very inspiring.
Well, thank you very much. I hope that people realize that, and we will continue to evolve in this concept of empowerment through sex. I am very happy to share my thoughts and what I have learned in practice.
So we have a break right now. Remember to check out her website. That's Dr. Tangie, thesexdoctor.com.
Free your mind. Expand your soul. Om Times Radio. IOM FM. Join Elliot Jolish, the business therapist, each Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern for the Elliot Jolish Hour as he interviews business experts on your behalf. And you're invited to email your business questions to questions@ecjgroup.com for answers, live, on air every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern on the Elliot Jolish Hour.
Have you been searching for a perspective beyond the mainstream? Check it out. Join your hosts Dr Pasquale and Diana Gold Holland on Share International Radio for thought-provoking views behind the news, Sundays at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern on Om Times Radio. You can also find us at shareontheairradio.org. This may be the message of hope you've been waiting for.
Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of Om Times Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of Om Times. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community. Simone Milasas would like you to know that business can be fun, which is why she wrote the book, Joy of Business. What if you could have the joy of business rather than the stress and struggle? Most of the time, the only thing stopping you from a thriving business is you. In the Joy of Business book, Simone gives you access consciousness tools and pragmatic ways to get out of your own way and to create the business, life, and living you know is possible and beyond what this reality says is achievable. Business is joy. It's creation. It's generative. It can be the adventure of living. You can purchase your copy of the book through Amazon or Joy of Business website, www.accessjoyofbusiness.com. The future of Internet radio is here. Om Times Radio. IOM FM.
Welcome back to Eros Evolution, where sexuality and spirituality meet. You are listening to omtimesradio.com, and you can listen to us by tuning in to our link to our show. Basically, what you can do is you can key in omtimes.com/mobile, and you will be able to listen to this show without needing to download any application. So this is very easy, it's very convenient. And coming back to the show, we're talking about sex as currency today, how sex is used for unbalanced power and how we can fix it. Well, with Dr. Tanginika Cuascud, and she believes that one's sexuality is a right, and she facilitates her clients' sexual growth by helping them identify their sexual goals and by offering education, resources, tools, and techniques to promote and manage that sexual growth. So welcome back to the show, Dr. Tangie.
I am here and very, very happy to be talking about sex and currency.
Thank you. So we talked about beginning to explore the transactional aspect of sex. And we talked about power and what can be done about it. Is there anything else you would like to elaborate on what you've covered so far?
Yes, when it comes to relationships, and again, I am talking about relationships so people can understand this concept, and that it really starts with us. We have created the paradigms about sex that we live in. So the paradigms will not change. The cultural norms will not shift if we do not take an active participation on it. So we do have that power to change, but we have to realize it. We have to become aware, which is where we left the last portion of the show. People engage in these dynamics, I have to say, without realizing. It starts from the time when we're little. People are told different things when they're little. For instance, here, at least in this part of the world, for girls, you can't have boyfriends and you can't give in, and boys only want one thing and one thing only. And then the boys are encouraged to go after the conquest and get as many girls as they can. Obviously the easy ones, if they can get them. And so we are taught this give and take from very, very early on, from the time we're born. I've heard parents saying crazy things to babies from the time they're born. If it's a boy, oh my goodness, how many girlfriends are you going to have? You know, if it's a girl, you're never going to have a boyfriend until you're 50. So you see how crazy this gets? We have these concepts ingrained in our psyche. And so we grow up and we hear it constantly, and we see the cultural norms around sex when it comes to the stereotypes. And when we grow old and we're in a relationship, of course, it's kind of the natural progression to just go with the wave and do as we were told. So even within coupled relationships or more than coupled relationships, whether it's polyamorous relationships, we see a lot of these power dynamics in which, again, the power that women have, and I'm using, again, the heterosexual norm here, but whether, call it as you will, feminine, masculine, one withholds and one pursues. And there is this chase going on forever, and it doesn't end. And there's one asking, when is this going to end? And the other one who can't stop the chase. So I want to make or create awareness to these behaviors that are not conducive to balance within relationships and to our own enjoyment. Sex is not something that we give as a reward. Sex is the reward. And whoever participates and has access to it, whoever you allow to become intimate in your space, that is as
conscious media for conscious minds. Om Times.
If you remember living fearlessly, joyfully, and in a world filled with adventure, happiness, pleasure, and unbridled living, then this show is for you. Join me, Dame Nicole Brandon, as I bring you the world's top experts in wealth, creativity, flow, sea-edging technology, space, wellness, health, love, lust, and passion, all merging together each week here at the Hub of Happiness. Mondays at 6 p.m. Pacific Time and 9 p.m. Eastern Time on Passionate Living, where you can ride on the magic carpet ride of living and learn how to lead a passionately wild, exciting, and outrageously amazing life.
Hello, I'm Miriam Knight of New Consciousness Review, inviting you to my new show where I interview the rising stars of the conscious awakening. We'll explore the many faces of consciousness in action and intriguing perspectives on life, the universe, and everything in between. Join us each Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern on the Rising Stars Show.
Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. Om Times Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single Om Times endeavor. Host your show with Om Times Radio Network. Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at Om Times Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, the advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. Om Times Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business. The best of holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. Om Times Radio. IOM FM.
Welcome back to today's show. We're talking about sex as currency, and we are with Dr. Tanginika Cuascud, and she offers an integrative approach to sexual health in which body, mind, and soul are in harmony and manifest through your sexuality. She offers the gift of reaching your sexual potential. Her services includes sexual coaching, sex education, sexual advice, somatic healing arts, where she offers tantra and erotic workshops and body work for sexual pleasure, and also surrogate partner therapy. You can find out more about her work by going to her website, Dr. Tangie, that's Tangie, thesexdoctor.com. And you can also find her on Facebook, Twitter, and also on her YouTube channel. So today we are exploring about sex and power and how with self-awareness and empowerment, one will be able to move away from toxic relationships or the risk of, and into more sexual pleasure and joy in their lives. So welcome back to the show, Dr. Tangie.
I am so happy to be talking about this important topic. I hope that people have seen the value of my words and that they're going to seek that empowerment that we're talking about instead of that power that can be so toxic for them.
Because besides having this taking self-responsibility and realization, what are some more like concrete steps or takeaways that you could give listeners out there?
Yes, something very important that people need to realize is that sex is a gift and it's our right. Sex is something that is part of us. Understand that sex is a mechanism. It is a very powerful mechanism that is built into the human condition for a reason. It is enjoyable. It has a lot of benefits for our health. And it is something that we can enjoy without shame or guilt. So something else besides realizing that we have that power to change is that we need to become aware that sex is in us. We live happier when we live a happy sex life. So when we realize that, we also accept ourselves, and we can go into a relationship, into a loving relationship, into a sexual relationship with the gift of ourselves. We can go there offering worth and value and benefiting ourselves as much as the other person benefits from that interaction. Understand your body. Understand who you are. Learn from the valuable information that your body tells you. If you do not know how to pleasure yourself, do not expect Superman or Superwoman to come and pleasure you and take you to the moon. You have responsibility over your own pleasure and over your own orgasm. I remember years ago, I heard this from sexologist extraordinaire, Dr. Patty Britton. And she said we have to be responsible for our own pleasure, our own bodies, and our own orgasm. And I thought, wow, nobody had ever told me that before. Nobody had taught me. Nobody had enlightened me that I was actually responsible for my own pleasure. And being responsible for my pleasure starts with knowing my body, knowing what pleases me, what doesn't, establishing healthy boundaries and saying no when I must, and saying yes when I want to, without any fear of judgment, of negative repercussions, because I am acting on my right to be a sexual being. Being a mature human being and going into any relationship, sentimental, loving, sex relationship, with a clear understanding that I am there voluntarily. That is so simple, yet it is so hard for so many people to realize that when they go into a relationship, they go voluntarily. Well, at least probably most of us. Maybe not for some people around the world, but if you have it, then you can be empowered because you're going there in your own free will, which also means that if that relationship is not working for you, you can also leave when you must. Don't play the victim card. If there is something in the relationship that doesn't suit you, change it. Communicate clearly and honestly about your needs, your wants, your desires. Own your sexuality. Be authentic. When you are authentic, yes, it doesn't mean that you will never receive criticism. We were talking before about Martha and my profession, being sexologists, and how we are the target of scrutiny from some people who misunderstand what we do, who judge us based on what we do. But that doesn't prevent us from being authentic. And I am not going to change being a sexologist because people are judging me. I am going to provide people with access to medically and scientifically rightful information so they can make decisions over their sexuality and their bodies. I am going to convey information that empowers people, that gives people the freedom to choose whether or not I have haters out there who don't like my work. So I am an authentic person. And when you are an authentic person, and Martha, I know you are too, then you are living your truth. And when you're living your truth, when you say no, the no becomes not a rejection towards you, it becomes a yes to me.
Thank you. So many juicy pieces of nuggets that you just shared. I was just focusing on writing it all down. Some of the takeaways, how our sexuality is a gift and our right, to how the importance of understanding our body and what our body tells us. I love your piece of what you took away from Dr. Patty Britton, who was my supervisor, which is taking responsibility for our own body, pleasure, and orgasm. And the third piece that I'm getting from you is the importance to be clear about our needs, wants, and desires, and to communicate it, to make a commitment to be authentic as we are in being ourselves first, and then in the work that we do as sexuality educators. I totally love what you're sharing, and I so appreciate you coming onto today's show. I just have one last question, because this show is always exploring about the link between sexuality and spirituality. So could you just say a few words about what you feel the link between the two is?
I am going to say something, and I know we're running out of time. I'm going to say something that I heard also from one of our mentors in this field of human sexuality and clinical sexology. And it's Dr. Ted McElvenna, the founder of the Advanced Institute for Human Sexuality in San Francisco, for the Advanced Studies of Human Sexuality in San Francisco. And he says a phrase that I think it encompasses what the link is between sex and spirituality. He says, if you can't find God in sex, where can you find him? And again, sex is a birthright, it's a gift, it's part of who we are, it's part of humanity, it is part of our DNA, it is part of our spiritual DNA. We do not have to deny ourselves spiritually because we want to embrace our sexual selves. And we can live a life of healthy sexuality and being spiritual beings. It doesn't have to be a fight of one against the other. It doesn't have to be a power struggle. We can empower ourselves to be mentally, spiritually, and physically sexy, sexual, and healthy. And we can enjoy it all. It doesn't have to be a power equation. Let's all be sexually empowered.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. With that, this has been Dr. Tanginika Cuascud, and you can find her on Dr. Tangie, that's Tangie, the sex doctor, thesexdoctor.com. So next week we have another guest where we'll be talking about empowering your erection with Rebecca Lorick, and she's the sexual alchemist. She'll be talking about empowering your erection digital program that you can do from home. She's worked with more than 2,000 men in the last 10 years and created a home program to help men with erection issues. So tune in and stay tuned to Eros Evolution next week.